I guess I'll go ahead and introduce myself and introduce the session. Thank you for joining me this morning at this awesome conference. I wish I could be there in person with you, but unfortunately, travel to the UK right now is a little more difficult. Today's topic is tuning in and tuning out what matters to you in Microsoft Teams. And I was inspired to do this session because many people previously used to come to me about Outlook. I'm overwhelmed by Outlook. I can't get anything done. I'm getting all these messages. And now it seems like that has translated to Microsoft Teams. And so when you're working in Teams, it can be, you can get kind of bombarded with all of the stuff that's coming in around that. So we're going to talk about that, how you can manage that, and hopefully streamline that so that you are more effective in your communications using Teams. All right, so I'm Shari Oswald. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm a Microsoft Office Specialist Master, which means I've just taken a bunch of tests. And my shortcut Shari is my nickname. That's what they call me. So feel free to reach out. The hardest thing to remember is how to spell my name. It's S-H-A-R-I. My joke is that I answered any spelling, but the internet isn't as forgiving as that. So let's go ahead and talk about Teams. Here's all my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, LinkedIn, on Facebook. I also have a blog, shortcutshare.com. I do tips every Tuesday. So if you want to check out my YouTube channel, the links are there on my blog, or you feel free to email me if you have any questions. So it's me at shortcutshare.com. And if you have any questions at any time, feel free to raise your hand. Or if people, I don't have anybody in the virtual, so I'm not sure about the chat, but just raise your hand. They've got that cool little red microphone. I have, in the past, we had sources of information, and let's kind of talk about the history of where information comes from. Originally, it was mail. That's the only way we got communication. We got letters in the mail. This goes back hundreds of years from the Pony Express. Then we got newspapers. So newspapers were helpful because it kind of centralized the information, not just from the people who were sending it to you, but from other places. So keep you in touch, let you know what's going on. Then we got the telephones, which was kind of nice because now we can verbally talk to people. But again, that's bi-directional, meaning there's two people involved. You know, sometimes they have those party calls or whatever, but that communication was coming in directed at me through the telephone lines. And then eventually we got television, and television is really helpful, you know, for getting information from larger sources, kind of like the newspaper, but a little bit interactive. Now, how does that make this different? Back in the day, we had a television, and we actually had one that looked just like this. And I was the channel changer. My dad would tell me, go change it to channel 12. There were 13 channels. And after we moved to a very small town in Oregon, we had 3. So we went from Southern California, where we had 13 channels, and then we moved to Oregon when we had 3. And that was if my brother was standing outside with the foil, because one of the channels didn't work very well. So that was very easy to tune in what we were interested in. I had 3 choices, and that was it. Now, in today's world, that is Outlook, right? We have one channel directionally coming in at us, and we have to manage that email. So let's talk about Outlook real quick, because I like to make some connections when it comes to Teams. If I have Outlook, I have all of my messages coming into one place, regardless of those topics. They could be something, you know, somebody might be asking me a question, or they could be about a client, or they could be about a project that we're working on. And in order to manage that, I don't know about you, I have for 20 years, people have asked me, how do I get through my inbox? I am overwhelmed by the amount of email that comes in every single day. So I always tell people, you know, if you need to compartmentalize stuff so that you can manage it later, it might be a good idea to get it out of your inbox and maybe start adding some folders. So I would create a folder here. Let's say that, you know, one of our clients is Northwind, and maybe another client is First Coffee. As my emails are coming in, I'm going to start sorting my email into these different buckets, because it helps me to compartmentalize and put everything together so that I can get it in context. Fairly easy to do, but and having that there for longevity. If I want to go in and search for it later, I can find it. Everything's coming in one channel, and I have to manage that, right? From whatever topic, whatever person. That can be simple, but when you get hundreds of emails a day, like some of, like I used to, and other people that I work with, this can be a lot of time consuming, busy work of sitting here dragging and dropping your documents or your email messages into folders. So this, though, fairly simple, one source coming at me with all the information. Now, let's go back to here. Oop. This is what we have now with Microsoft Teams. It's not just a television with 12 or 13 channels. We have the 2,000 channel cable pack, and everything's coming at us from different places at different times. How do we get through that? That is very frustrating and overwhelming, again, and really hard to manage if you just leave it at face value. So let's talk about how Teams maybe would be able to fix that for us. So here's Megan. She's my handy dandy character here today for our demo. So Megan has teams, as you can see, she's a part of multiple teams. So if you think of this from like the TV perspective, each one of these is one of those television screens, and each one of the channels underneath are the channels underneath that. So if you think of something like sports, right? Sports, we have the ESPN, and I'm not sure what the equivalents are around the world. Forgive me, because I'm not a huge sports fanatic, but most people can relate to it. We have a channel, excuse me, for sports. And let's say this is sports, and then my channels are football, basketball, and football being, the UK football. Then we have American football. Then we have rugby, and we have basketball. If I wanted to focus in on rugby, or I want to focus in on football, I'm going to select that channel and look at that. Now, how is this different from working in Outlook? Outlook, I have to sort it all out. But if you structure your teams correctly, you can choose the channels and allow people to focus in on what is important to them. So Teams has three primary functions: communication, collaboration, and creating content with each other. And the communication comes in the form of the posts and the announcements, as well as the calling and the meeting features as well. But we're talking about the structure of Teams. So when you're building your teams, I always advise people to look at who needs to work together. That's the team. What are they working on, or what are their areas of focus? Those are the channels. And then the tabs across the top are how we're going to get that work done. We're going to communicate using posts. We're going to collaborate or create content together using files. And then, of course, we have all of the other apps that you can add to each one of those channels to help people to focus. So why is this more efficient than using Outlook? Because I'll tell you, I'm really good at Outlook. I actually did an entire series on my YouTube channel about how to manage your email, how to manage your inbox, because people are so overwhelmed by it. And I came up with what I call Shari's tag and flag system. And I recorded all of them because I'm tired of repeating myself all the time, saying the same stuff. So when I started thinking about that, and then I got into Teams, people are like, you have to use Teams. I'm like, wait, what? I'm really good at Outlook. I can mark things as tasks. I can do all these cool things. And you want me now to use a new tool? Well, I kind of get it now. I absolutely get it now. Because instead of having our conversations in one big dump box, which we call Outlook, we can now have them here. If I have a specific topic that I need to ask about, I'm going to present that here with a new conversation. So let's say I'm going to the go-to-market plan and I want to create a new conversation. I'm going to say, at go-to-market plan, does anyone have a presentation template? Now, if it's an Outlook, I would have sent out an email and I would have gotten a reply all, reply all, reply all. And I would probably gotten 20 emails back about this one file. When they say that you can reduce your inbox by communicating in Teams by 40%, they're not kidding, because we've just gotten rid of all of that email. as soon as somebody replies to this, everybody else knows it. So if I had Nestor come in here and reply to that, then he's going to respond to that. So I'm going to bring up, I've got Nestor here. Let's take him over to Teams. He's got activity. Megan mentioned the go-to-market plan, and I can reply to her and say, yes, I will upload it. I'm not going to send an email back and attach the file. I'm going to upload it here to the files where everybody is working. All right, so I'm going to respond back to her. Okay, thank you, Nestor. I appreciate your help. Back to Megan. And my screen switching is not working. Okay, so we have communication going back around specific topics. Look at all these little notifications that are coming up. All of these channels that are bold, that means there's activity in them. Some of them are important to me and some of them are not. So how do we make sure that we are seeing what's the most relevant content to us? Notice my activity up here says 49. 49. Since whenever the last time I logged into Teams, that's how much activity I have going on. So the first thing for tuning in and tuning out, what matters to you in Teams is to arrange your Teams pane so that it makes sense to you. As teams are added, they're automatically added to the bottom of the pane. If I am working in the design most of the time, I don't want to scroll all the way down there to see what's there. I'm going to move that one up. So you can drag and drop your teams in the order that makes sense for you. So that's the first tip. Bring things into focus so that you see the most important stuff at the top. And then as things change, maybe later on, I'm focusing on the sales and marketing. At any point, I can change the order of what my teams are in our teams panel. If we are no longer active in a team like this one, there's no activity in this one, and it might be an old project, then you might want to hide that team. So I'm going to click the little dot, dot, dot here and hide the team. It doesn't make me leave the team. I'm not out of the team. I just have it down here now in my Teams panel under Hidden Teams and expand it if I ever want to go back there. One thing I would suggest to you is if you are managing your notifications, if you're going to hide a team, you might want to, let's say the Sales West channel is the only one that I work in here, and other than that, maybe there's 2 posts a year or something. You might want to follow a channel or change the notifications. So on this channel, I'm going to do channel notifications, and I want to see all activity. And then I might hide the team, and it's going to tuck it away from view. But if anything happens in there, I'm going to get an active notification. Right, so managing your Teams panel and hiding and showing the teams that are most relevant to you, and using those channel notifications are helpful as well. Now, within the team itself, maybe I do not work on the design awards at all. I'm going to hide that channel. And I'm going to hide the, maybe the kickoff is over in Project Alpha. I'm going to hide that one too. We can't reorder the order of the channels in the team. The first one is always general, and after that, they're alphabetical. But you can hide and show the channels that you work in so that you see those as well. And you can see that eventually this is going to condense that Teams panel down much more and make it more friendly to me. So I'm tuning in to the teams that are important. Now, the second thing, once you have your notifications set up, you might want to look at your overall notifications. How are you being told when things are happening? So if I go up to my profile in the upper right-hand corner, and oops, sorry, they moved it. Used to be in here. Now it's under the dot, dot, dot. So depending on the release of teams that you're in, you might click here and there'll be a settings option, or click the little dot, dot, dot and choose the settings. It's going to be in one of the two. And under your notifications, this is how you get notified, or how you control what you are told is happening in Teams. If you're not working in Teams a lot and you really still focus on Outlook, then you might want to make sure that you get emails sent to you every time something happens if there's activity. Or if you if you're in Teams more than Outlook, you might just want to have everything pop up. Now there's 2 or 3 different ways that you get notified. First is that little banner that pops up, the little purple one that tells you things are going on. That's the first one. But how do we get notified for chat, meetings, people, or others? So you get those pop-ups. You're going to get the activity bell that pops up here. And in some cases, you're going to get emails. So if I go to chat, how am I going to be notified if somebody chats with me? If they @mention, then I'm going to get the banner and the feed. If I don't want the little purple pop-ups, which is what the banners are, then I can change it to show only in the feed. So I might say the likes and reactions I only want in the feed. Messages I might want, this one just has the banner or off, and then here's the mentions for chat. Do the same thing for meetings, the same thing for people, and then here's some other ones. Someone joins the team, and then how do you want to be notified for that? Okay, so set up your notifications here first, and here's your notification style, Teams built in or Windows. Do you want the little ping, or do you want whatever the notification is sound that you have set up for Windows? It will be there as well. All right, so set those up first, and then control them channel by channel. That's the default for everything, but you can go into each channel and change the activity for those. So all new posts, maybe I want only in the feed. If I want channel mentions, I want the banner in the feed. Include all replies, yes or not, and then click save. So now I'm going to get more active notifications on this particular channel, or turn them off for ones that you don't. Doesn't mean you won't see them in the activity, and that the channels will turn bold if there's activity. That's kind of a passive way of letting you know things are happening there. This is how you want to be actively notified. All right, then when you go to your activity, I have 49 things to get through. Well, if you watch my Shari's tag and flag system, I triage my email. I go through and I look at every message and I tag or flag it before I decide what I'm going to do with it. And I'm kind of doing the same thing here. I'm going to triage this. The first ones that are important to me are the ones where I've been mentioned. So in the feed, click the little funnel and then the more options button and select the mentions. So here's everywhere that I've been mentioned, probably the ones I need to pay attention to first. So I'm going to click the little dot, dot, dot. It says mark as unread if I need to, or if I click there, it'll take me directly to that message. So here's where I've been mentioned by Megan. All right, looks like they need some guidance from me on what to do with this document. So I'm not going to do this right now because I'm triaging my stuff so that I can prioritize it. Here is what I have been begging for, and they buried it. Thank you, Microsoft. When I am in Outlook, I like to tag my emails and make them to-dos when I need to get things done with them. And I wanted the same feature in Teams. Well, it doesn't say create a task here. You have to go down to more actions and then create a task. And this creates a task in your to-do list. So it flags it and it gives you a link back to the message. So I'm going to add the task. I could put a due date and a priority in there. And then when I go out to do, so let's go office and look at to do here. There. Here's the task list. And here is that same message from Teams and the link back to the message. So that way I can keep track that I need to get that done later. So I'm tuning in to my tasks. And I can do that on each one. Maybe I'm just going to look at this one and it's like, all right, I'm just going to give her a thumbs up and react to that. He mentioned me here and, okay, that's cool. Don't need to do anything with it. So you just triage your email that way, tuning in to the messages that matter to you. All right. Now, one of your other tuning in is the chats. So let's look at our chats. When you have a chat, you can have a chat with a person, or you can have a chat with a group. And if you haven't used the chat groups, that's when you have one or more people. So Adele and Johanna here were in a chat session with me, and we were collaborating on something. Little tip, if you click the little pencil, you can type in what you were working on. So I'm going to say this is the handoff meeting. Now, how do I tune in the chat? One of your options is to pin your chat at the top. So as your chats will build, most recent to least recent, eventually they're going to fall out of line. Plus, every time you have a meeting, there's a chat associated with that too. So the being able to pin some of these to the top helps me to visually see when there's activity for the ones that are important to me and are at the ones I want to focus on first. I can also click here and mark that as red so that it stops being bold and stops drawing my attention to it after I've dealt with it, or it's not something I'm involved in. Now you'll see this one is muted. Why would you want to mute a chat? When you're in chat, it's a persistent chat. So at any point, if I'm in a meeting, somebody else could pop into that same meeting in the same chat session and post messages later, which is great, because if it's around a particular project or a topic, then you can you have that chat that you can go back to and refer to later, or you can keep it going without actually having to meet. The topic is centralized in there around that meeting. But if you're not in that meeting this week and you were in a meeting last week, it's still in your history. And if somebody generates chat out of that, and now your screen is blown up with pop-ups all over the place, like, I'm not even in this. Shush. So how do we manage that? Click the little ... and mute it. And you can see the chat is muted here. Right, so here is our mute on this one. At any point, I might say, okay, unmute it now because I'm involved in the chat again. I think that's a big one. So being able to pin your chats and to mute and unmute them. If you did not originate a chat, if you were not the maker of the meeting or originator of the chat, you can leave the chat. So if I click leave, excuse me one second. I have picked up a little bit of a cold, I think. So forgive me. Right, so if I want to leave, I can leave the chat. You have to leave. It gets rid of the chat history as well. So I click leave. I am now out of that chat. Or if this is something, again, it's just kind of gumming up the chat panel here, you might want to hide it. So you can hide those and again manage them. Now, you cannot reorder. If I drag and drop them in this pane, you cannot reorder the chats that are just building for the most recent. But in the pinned ones, let's say I'm going to pin a couple more here. Once they're pinned, you can drag and drop them. So that's another way to kind of manage the chat panel and make sure you're seeing what you need to see. Right. Any questions or aha moments? You're like, oh, that's cool. Okay, like it. All right, so managing your chat in Teams and your Teams panel and managing them in chat. Let's talk about our meetings. All right, you can see we have a whole lot of meetings going on here. And I have, let's say I'm going to join this one. Oops, maybe not that one. Let's go into this one. Won't let me join it. Okay, let me make a new one. Our demo environment, they change it periodically, and sometimes stuff that worked last week didn't work today. All right, so we're going to do project update meeting. And I'm going to invite Nestor.
It happens all the time, so don't worry.
And then send that off to him. Now I've got Nestor open another window. And I'm going to bring here. We're going to join that. Here's my, I have an echo. Do you have an echo?
We don't. Can you hear us? We don't have an echo.
I can. I have an echo. You have an echo?
No.
Nope.
I think because you opened the meeting, maybe you can mute it.
I'm feeling that call was interfering with. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay. Looks like that call is interfering with the audio for the Teams call. It's conflicting, even though I said don't join audio. What I was going to show you is when you're in a meeting, let me just see if I can join as one person. Or that should have generated a chat. Let's see. Let me do this real quick. And okay. So here's my peeve with Teams. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Like, I'm paranoid now. Here's my peeve with Teams. When people are working in the chat, as you're in a team, the chat in the meeting pops up with the little banners every time somebody is chatting with you. So as I'm trying to type, those purple banners are popping up right here over the top of where I'm typing. Very frustrating. So one of the ways that I manage that is I actually resize my window because the banner pops up in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, not the Teams window. So if I were to do this, that banner is going to pop up right here in the lower right-hand corner. Very helpful to be out of the way. Then as I can type away and as other people are chatting with me, it doesn't disturb what I'm trying to type or share there as well. And then other little option here under the ... This is new. It says don't show chat bubbles. And I found this to be a little fickle. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But in theory, what should happen is that when the chat will just show up in the chat panel in the history here, and it doesn't show the little bubbles that pop up over the top, which are those purple banners. Right. So tuning out what's happening there, making sure that I can see and be able to communicate. All right. So we have tuning in as far as Teams and chat. And now a couple other things. If you're trying to help people refocus and start using Teams, some might be resistant to that. And here is my suggestion for you. If you have people that are just hanging on by their fingernails and they keep using Outlook when they should be using Teams, there is a fairly new option. It's been out for a few months. Let's say this liquid fourth coffee is something that should have been a conversation that's in Teams. You can share this to Teams and then say, please have a conversation. Okay. And if there's any attachments on the file, you can click this and it'll include it as well. All right. Oops. I lied. We have to tell it where to go first. So go to Market. And I'm going to type the message here and click Share. And if I go back out to Teams and my Go to Market plan, here is that email. So this pushes people back into Teams. So we maintain our focus. We're not trying to split for those people that are still in Outlook and fighting to be in Teams. All right. So those are my tips for you for tuning in and tuning out what matters to you in Microsoft Teams. Do you have any questions or maybe what's one of your favorite tips?
Hi, Danny here. Not a real question, but I just want to say that I really like the advice, and it's really keep it simple. Just moving the window, make the Teams window a bit smaller, and move it about 15 centimeters from the right. And then you don't have the disturbing of the chat bulbs. Yeah, just keep it simple. But I didn't think about that. Really helpful, honestly.
Oh, good. I actually had Jeff Deeper. Excuse me. I actually had Jeff Deeper and was able to ask him that question. He said they're going to move it. That was 2 years ago, and they still haven't moved it. Like, this is everybody's pain. Why isn't it in the opposite spot? But he didn't answer yet. So that's my answer to it. Cool. All right. Any other questions or comments?
I was just going to say really, really good session. Loved all the tips. And for me, the biggest one is notifications. As soon as you've sorted those out and muted the chats that are, always pinging, then it's much, much easier to focus on your tasks. So yeah, really good tips. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and another tip that I didn't think about is that you can move the teams to reorder. I didn't think about that, but you can move the teams to reorder. That's something I really want to do if I'm coming home.
I've had people come back and they're like, like after your last session, I went and I changed my whole teams, and they got rid of the ones they weren't working on anymore. And yeah, I'm like, that's great. So helpful. Awesome. Right. Happy to answer any questions, or if you, there's the virtual attendees, would they have been in the Teams meeting?
I think
or chat?
we might have 2 left, 2 on the call. Does anyone have any questions? I can take you off mute if you raise your hand. I'll just give them a few seconds.
I know, finding that mute button, right? I can give you the best kept secret of Teams. The best kept secret of Outlook, if you're not aware, is drag and drop. If you take an email or take any item from one area of Outlook and drag it to another area of Outlook, it converts it to the destination folder type. So what I mean by that is if I have this email from Alex and I want to save his information, I drag it to the contacts and it converts it to a contact and leaves the original email there. So that, or if I drag an email to a task, it converts it to a task. In Teams, the best kept secret is this box up here. It's not just for search. If you look at the last phrase, and there's this type / for list of commands. So just like when I went into activity and I said I only want to see the mentions, that's like 3 steps. If I wanted to go work in a team, I go to Teams, and let's say I want to work in the NC 460 sales. I'm going to have to scroll up and down. If I hid the channel, then I might be able to expand it and look. But up here at the top, if you do / and let's say, notice all of these commands and what they do on the right-hand side. So I'm going to type in /mentions. That's like no clicks whatsoever. It takes me to my feed and it filters it by the mentions. If I do /unread, it's going to show me only my unread notifications. If I do /go-to and hit tab, it's going to ask me what team or channel do you want to go to. So if I type in that, what was that in? Now I can't remember what it's called. Let's do go-to-market. So here's my go-to-market plan. It takes me right to that channel of that team. So you can go to the team, it'll take you to the general channel. If you use the channel name, then it takes you there. So best kept secret of Teams is that /commands list that's at the top.
I agree. Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
We've got lots of note-taking happening here in the room, and there's only 2 of us.
I'm not doing anything else. I'm taking notes.
Okay.
I love it. Okay. Well,
Awesome.
Shortcut Shari, it's my job to make your job easier. So hopefully I did that today.
You did.
So,
Thanks, Shari.